QuaranJazz. Listen while you're home. Hello and welcome to the 36th episode of QuaranJazz, your weekly update on what the jazz scene has been doing during this crazy year of 2020. I'm Geisa Fernandes, singer, songwriter, and music researcher from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And your favorite podcast is starting now. Before I introduce you to this week's guest, let me please remind you that you have several ways to contact me, and they are all listed in the description of this episode, including a link to my webpage, geisafernandes.com, a directly link to my mailing list. By clicking, you will get automatically free regular content from me, a link to the Social Distancing Festival and first hour partner of QuaranJazz, and guess what? They have an open call. I strongly recommend you to check the link of this amazing call, where you know already, in the description of this episode. And if you're more of a social network kind of person, join the Touring Jazz Musician on Facebook, a group that I've created after a guide that I wrote on jazz festivals with open submission processes. That is, the ones that accept submissions directly from artists. If this is your thing, join the discussion. The Touring Jazz Musician on Facebook. And one more thing, dear listener. After 36 weeks, I think we got a little bit closer to each other, right? I know that you are probably facing again a scary moment, or maybe you're just like me holding on the fear in a high level and then, keep it going. But I am aware that lots of plans that seemed to be possible at the end of the year, well, now you don't have hope anymore and you are trying to get yourself prepared, organized to the next year, both financially and emotionally. And I do hope that this podcast can help you somehow to promote the work that you've been doing this year. And this is the case of our guest this week from Montevideo, Uruguay, Felipe Fuentes, multi-instrumentalist, producer, composer, and also a painter, quite talented one. I saw his paintings already. As a matter of fact, I had the pleasure of sharing the stage with Felipe when I had this short tour in South America, and in Uruguay we performed together in the Museo Nacional de Artes Visuales, so the Visual Arts National Museum. Very, very nice experience indeed. And Felipe belongs to the new scene of Uruguayan musicians that makes jazz with African rhythms, rap, a very interesting mixing. You should definitely check it out. And he's here today to talk about his new release, an album called Sankofa. Hi, Felipe. So glad to have you here in QuaranJazz. Thank you very much for your participation. So, my dear Felipe, as usual in this show, I will ask you to start by introducing yourself to our listeners and tell us a bit about the projects that you're involved and, of course, everything about your new release.
My name is Felipe Fuentes. I play bass, double bass, guitar. I'm also a beat maker and a producer from Montevideo, Uruguay. I've done several works during these past years. I just finished recording a record called Sankofa, which it makes me really happy because it's been a really long process and it's a relief to finally get to see that being fully born with a very good friend of mine called Alvaro Silva. He's an MC and a poet. We work on that project for the past 3 years, mixing candombe.
It would be nice to describe to our listeners what candombe is.
This is the main Afro rhythm from Uruguay with hip-hop. And, for example, we have Ruben Rada and Hugo Fatoruso featured on the album. Another big job I had was last year making a song for the campaign against the change of the constitution here in Uruguay that would have allowed the army and the police to take a more aggressive, and I don't know how to say it, but it would have been very fucked up. So I'm glad that I got a chance to fight against that by making the campaign music, and it actually helped a lot on changing the odds and in the end winning.
All right. And here I would like to give again an extra piece of information. Uruguay is considered one of the most stable and strong democracies in South America. They have a long tradition in civil rights and activism. And how is the year going for you? What have you been doing since the start of the pandemic?
Well, as I said, I'm based in Montevideo, and when the whole pandemic COVID-19 thing started, well, the first thing that happened was that every gig that I had got canceled, and well, that's pretty much it. Then it was finding myself against the big monster of nothing to do, and how can I make sense of all of this. Luckily for me, I started composing a lot, started making songs again, one thing that I haven't done like in years, but I was able to start again with that process, and it really helped me to keep my sanity at a good level.
Well, that's quite a lot already. Trying to make some sense out of this year is already a full-time job right now. Glad to know that you're back to writing songs. And what you've been doing lately?
My activities right now are, well, I'm producing one album with a hip-hop group called Oriental 34. I'm also mixing and co-producing another record of a friend of mine that is a piano player and a beat maker, and called Lautaro Moreno, and some other like small jobs like recording a bass here and there, recording a guitar here and there, mixing something. Most likely I'm gonna have my first gig of the post-COVID era next month with my friend Lautaro, the one that I'm mixing his record, in La Trastienda, a big place here. And well, I'm also finishing an album that I started making during this quarantine with 7 songs, and there it goes.
What about your future plans?
Plans for the future? Well, I don't know, not really. I'm gonna buy a bass. I actually did that, which is kind of crazy. But well, I needed a professional bass. I didn't have one. I would like to travel as soon as possible.
I know what you mean. It is very hard to make any reasonable projections on what's going to happen, since the venues themselves, they are trying to move their schedule without knowing what will happen. You know, all those questions. When exactly will the vaccine come? Will any of the social distancing rules remain even after the vaccine comes? Will the names booked for 2021, early 2021, be able to, honor their dates? Many questions. I have the impression that we are all floating in the dark, trying to grab something. It is hard to plan now. It is absolutely necessary to plan now for the coming months, for the coming year. So it's a kind of paradox that we have to face. One more puzzle that this year is bringing us to solve. I know how you feel. Really. I think the listeners also do. And what about the track that you've selected for us to listen at the end of this episode, and also to include in our QuaranJazz playlist on Spotify? No talk, all jazz.
The song, well, is one of the songs that I recorded during this quarantine, and it's gonna be on the short EP I'm gonna present sometime soon when it's done with the mixing and mastering. It's called Veo, and it's actually the first song I've done in like 5 years. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Felipe. Thank you so much for your participation in QuaranJazz, and congratulations for the new release. Really, I know how it feels to bring a long-time project to light. Congratulations to all the ones involved in this beautiful project. And this was the 36th episode of QuaranJazz. Thank you, dear listener, for staying with us. Thank you so much for your company. I'm Geisa Fernandes, singer, songwriter, and music researcher from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And you know already, for critics, suggestions, there are several ways, and they are all listed in the description of this episode. A link to my webpage, geisafernandes.com, where you will find a contact form, a directly link to my mailing list, so that you can be added and get free regular content, or on Facebook, the group The Touring Jazz Musician, where I share information about jazz festivals that accept submissions directly from artists. The Touring Jazz Musician. Time to bid you farewell. Till next week. And now, ladies and gents, Veo.
Veo cada día pasar como si fueran 10. Luego te parece que al hablarme solo me ves, pero todo eso que en la vida no conoces, cuentan esos ojos tan hermosos cuando me ves. Y en el alma sueño que te vuelvo a ver. Dime un día, ahora del amanecer. Pienso de mi vida que será un día tal vez, mientras una hormiga por el pasto camina a tus pies. Dice soy, el jardín se iluminó, el jardín se iluminó. Si en el alma sueño que te vuelvo a ver. Dime un día, ahora del amanecer.
QuaranJazz. Listen while you're home. QuaranJazz, a podcast by Geisa Fernandes.